Security. There's a black man wandering around. Get him out. Sir, I'm an invited guest. Invited? Scotch-soaked laughter. Your people serve champagne here. They don't drink it. I represent Titan Logistics. Never heard of it. Some ghetto startup. He grabs the man's lapel. This suit fake, just like you. Trying to sneak into white spaces where you don't belong. Please let go, Garrett. Teach this boy some manners. First glass, red wine splashed across his face. Oops. Second glass down his chest, laughter erupting. Still standing there, stubborn like all of them. Third glass soaking through, $500 crumpled, shoved into his mouth. Swallow it, boy, only money you'll ever taste. He spits it out quietly, wine dripping from his chin. 4 executives, one satisfying laugh. They had no idea who they just humiliated, but they're about to find out. And when they do, their $800 million world will collapse. Let me take you back 12 hours before that wine hit his face. Manhattan, Meridian Equity Partners headquarters, 42nd floor. The corner office with the view that cost more than most people's houses. Malcolm Elijah Griffin stood at the window. $50 million in art on the walls behind him. $4.5 billion in assets under management. 12 companies in his portfolio. But today his mind was on just one. His phone buzzed. Rachel Morrison, COO of Titan Logistics. Renewal documents are ready, sir. Catherine Cole wants a call next week to finalize the contract. Cancel the call, sir. 3 years you've handled Harrington Cole. You've done excellent work, but this renewal is different. $800 million company. 5 more years. I want to meet them myself. Rachel paused. You've never wanted direct involvement before. Time to change that. They have a charity gala tonight in Connecticut. I'll attend. Should I arrange an introduction with Catherine? No, I want to observe first. See who they really are when there's no business on the table. Character reveals itself in social settings. Malcolm hung up. His assistant, Jerome Simmons, entered. Former Marine, 6 years of loyal service, the kind of man who noticed everything. Invitation came through, Jerome said. But there's a problem. What kind? It was sent to Titan's office, not to you directly, addressed to Titan Logistics representative. Your name isn't anywhere on it. Malcolm turned from the window. 3 years of partnership, $800 million company, and they addressed the invitation to representative. Gets worse. Jerome pulled up records on his tablet. I checked our files. You've requested direct meetings with HC leadership 8 times over 3 years. Face-to-face meetings. All 8 were declined. By whom? Same person every time. Victor Morrison, their VP of Legal. Malcolm filed the name. Victor Morrison. What reasons did he give? Different excuses each time. Mrs. Cole prefers working with operational teams. Owner involvement not necessary for routine business. Rachel Morrison is authorized to represent Titan fully. Routine business. Malcolm almost smiled. $800 million is routine now. That evening, Malcolm's black sedan cut through the Connecticut countryside. Old money territory. Estates hidden behind ancient trees. Wealth so deep it didn't need to advertise. The Harrington estate emerged like a castle from the darkness. 400 cars. Crystal chandeliers visible through 20-feet windows. The kind of party where a single centerpiece cost more than a teacher's annual salary. At the security checkpoint, the guard studied the invitation. Titan Logistics representative. He looked up, looked at Malcolm, looked at Jerome. 2 black men in expensive suits. His eyes narrowed. You are the owner? I'll need to verify that. 3 minutes of radio calls. 3 minutes of standing in the cold. Meanwhile, a white couple in a Mercedes rolled up. The guard waved them through with a smile. No. Verification needed. Finally, you're clear, but there's no very important person seating assigned. You'll have to find your own spot. Not a problem. Inside, Malcolm scanned the ballroom. 400 of America's wealthiest families, diamonds, champagne, the smell of inherited money. He spotted Catherine Cole near the orchestra, networking with donors. He recognized her from company reports, but they'd never met. She didn't know he was here, didn't know what he looked like. Near the bar, 4 men laughed too loud. Bradley Harrington III, Garrett Cole, Preston Ashby, Mitchell Warren. Old money, drunk confidence, the kind of men who'd never been told no. Malcolm caught a fragment of their conversation. Titan Logistics contract. Boring stuff. Rachel Morrison handles everything. I've never even seen the owner. $800 million company. And you've never met the guy? Why would I? That's what operational people are for. As long as the trucks show up, who cares? In the corner, Malcolm noticed something else. An older man watching him, whispering to someone beside him. Charles Harrington, 76, the patriarch, and Victor Morrison, the gatekeeper. Charles saw Malcolm enter, said something to Victor. Victor nodded, but Victor didn't approach Malcolm, didn't introduce him to anyone, didn't alert the other executives. Strange. Then, Catherine Cole walked past right by Malcolm, close enough to touch. She didn't recognize him. Why would she? She only worked with Rachel. Never seen Malcolm's photo. He was a name in contract. Not a face at galas. From across the room, Charles watched, a small smile forming. Malcolm didn't know it yet. His invisibility wasn't an accident. It was designed. Near the back tables, Malcolm noticed an elderly woman struggling with her cane. Eleanor Harrington, 86 years old, the family matriarch, lost in the crowd of people half her age. No one helped her. Too busy networking, too important to notice. Malcolm walked over. "Ma'am, may I assist you?" He offered his arm, guided her gently to her seat. "Thank you, young man." Her voice was warm, genuine. "Such manners. What's your name?" Malcolm Griffin. The name meant nothing to her. She wasn't involved in business anymore. "And what do you do, Malcolm?" "I own a company that works with your family's business. How wonderful. You're very polite. That's rare these days." "I like you." That's when Bradley appeared. Garrett, Preston, and Mitchell trailing like hyenas behind a lion. "Grandma, let me help you." "A nice young man already helped me, Bradley." Bradley looked at Malcolm. Quick assessment. The kind of evaluation that takes 2 seconds and dismisses a person entirely. Black, nice suit, but not a tuxedo. No Rolex, no very important person badge, no one he recognized. Conclusion, nobody. "Thanks, buddy. I've got her from here, of course." "Enjoy your evening, Mrs. Harrington." Malcolm turned to leave. "Give them space." Garrett stepped in his path. "Hold on. You work for the catering company?" "No." "Valet service? Security?" "I'm a guest." Mitchell laughed, mocking. "A guest at a Harrington gala?" "Sure you are. I represent Titan Logistics." Bradley and Garrett exchanged looks. The name was familiar, somewhere in the back of their minds, but the connection didn't form. "Titan, right? That logistics vendor." Bradley waved his hand dismissively. "Since when do we invite vendors to family events? Titan is a strategic partner. 3 years, $800 million company. Partner, vendor, whatever. Same thing." Bradley raised his wine glass. "Well, welcome to the party, Mr. Logistics Man." He stepped forward, pretended to stumble. The wine hit Malcolm's face first. Red, expensive, cold. Oops, clumsy me. He wasn't stumbling, he was laughing. Nothing made him trip. Garrett moved in immediately. "Let me help clean that." "Oh no." Second glass down Malcolm's chest, the white shirt turning crimson. Still standing there, Preston sneered. Stubborn, just like all of them. Third glass. Mitchell this time, soaking through to skin. Preston threw a napkin. It hit Malcolm's face before falling to the floor. "There you go, boy, clean yourself up." Mitchell had his phone out, recording, laughing. Classic Brad. This is gold. Malcolm stood motionless, wine dripping from his chin, staining his $3,000 suit. 8 seconds of absolute stillness. Bradley grew uncomfortable with the silence. He expected anger, shouting, something he could use. "Come on, that's Chateau Margaux, $400 a bottle. You should be honored." He pulled out a money clip thick with bills, peeled off 500 seconds, ed them, shoved them into Malcolm's breast pocket. "For the shirt and the dry cleaning, keep the change." He patted Malcolm's chest twice, condescending. "Consider it a tip for the help." Malcolm reached into his pocket, pulled out the crumpled bills. A server walked past. "Young black man, name tag Derek." "From Mr. Harrington," Malcolm said quietly, handing him the cash. "He appreciates your service tonight." Derek understood, took the money, nodded with dignity. Malcolm turned back to Bradley. "Titan Logistics, $800 million company. I own 67%. Remember the name Malcolm Griffin?" Bradley's laughter exploded. "You own it, right? And I'm the Pope. You'll remember soon." Malcolm walked away. The executives laughed harder. Best entertainment of the evening. They didn't notice Mitchell's phone was still recording, or that someone had just airdropped the video outside the building. Malcolm moved toward the exit. Steady pace, controlled. Jerome intercepted him in the foyer. "Sir, do you want me to—" "No, bring the car around." "What about the renewal meeting?" "That's why we came. There won't be a renewal. Sir, that's our biggest client, 800 million. Some things cost more than money, Jerome." Behind them, Bradley noticed his victim leaving. The black man he just put in his place was walking away, not apologizing, not cowering, not begging for forgiveness. Unacceptable. "Hey, logistics guy." Malcolm didn't stop. Bradley pushed through the crowd, his hand clamped down on Malcolm's shoulder from behind. Brr. Spun him around. "I'm not done with you. I am. You come into my family's house, act all high and mighty, then just walk away like nothing happened." Malcolm's voice was ice. "I don't own this house, but I own what keeps it running." Bradley didn't understand. His grip tightened. Garrett, Preston, and Mitchell caught up, surrounding Malcolm. 4 against 1 problem here, Brad. This vendor is claiming he owns Titan. Vendor with an attitude problem. Preston shook his head. They never learn. Mitchell still had his phone out, still recording. This is premium content. Malcolm looked directly into the camera lens. "Keep that video, you're going to need it." Bradley squeezed harder. "Is that a threat? Are you threatening a Harrington?" "I'm stating facts. Your family owns 18% of HC through Charles's shares. Institutional investors own the rest. Titan Logistics, an $800 million company, is the largest partner those investors have. You don't own anything, Bradley. You're hired help with a famous name." The words hit like ice water. Bradley's face reddened, veins pulsing in his neck. "Who the hell do you think you are? Someone you should have Googled before tonight." The commotion drew attention. Heads turning, whispers spreading. "Someone get security! Who is that? What's happening?" Catherine Cole pushed through the crowd, the chairman of the board, real power in a room full of pretenders. "What is going on here?" Bradley released Malcolm, smoothed his jacket, switched to charm mode. "Nothing. Auntie Catherine. Just a misunderstanding with one of the vendors." Catherine looked at Malcolm. Wine-soaked shirt, straight posture, zero fear in his eyes. Something about him didn't fit the vendor narrative. "Who are you?" Before Malcolm could answer, Jerome appeared at his side. "The car is ready, Mr. Griffin." "Griffin!" The name hit Catherine like electricity. Griffin, as in Malcolm Griffin, founder of Meridian Equity Partners, majority owner of Titan Logistics. Catherine's face went white. "Titan? But I've been working with Rachel Morrison for 3 years. Rachel is my COO. She runs day-to-day operations. I own 67% of the company, $800 million valuation." "You're the owner?" "Yes, Mrs. Cole. 3 years of partnership, and this is the first time we've met face-to-face. I requested direct meetings 8 times. All 8 were declined." "Declined?" "I never declined anything. I know you didn't. Someone made sure you never got those requests. Someone made sure we never met. Someone wanted me to remain invisible." Malcolm's eyes drifted across the ballroom, found Charles Harrington in the corner, still watching, still calm, not surprised at all. Catherine followed his gaze. Her face shifted from confusion to horror. She turned to Bradley. "Bradley, please tell me you didn't know. How could I know? I've never seen him before in my life." "That's exactly the problem." She looked at Garrett, Preston, Mitchell. "Did any of you know who he was?" Silence. Guilty silence. "You just poured wine on the owner of our LA RGS partner. $800 million. Our entire supply chain depends on his company." Bradley's face drained of color. "The logistics guy is actually—" Mitchell slowly lowered his phone, video still recording, evidence of their destruction still accumulating. Malcolm straightened his ruined jacket with dignity. "Mrs. Cole, I came tonight to finally meet your leadership team. After 3 years of letting Rachel handle everything, I wanted to see who you really are, what kind of people I'm doing business with." He looked down at his wine-soaked shirt. "Now I know." He turned toward the door. "Mr. Griffin, please," Catherine started. He didn't look back. Catherine spun on Bradley. "My office, now, all 4 of you." Charles Harrington watched from his corner. Everything proceeding exactly as planned. Griffin humiliated. Partnership doomed. His 15-year wait finally paying off. But Charles had forgotten one variable. Mitchell's video. It had already left the building, already reached Morgan Webb, freelance journalist, professional exposer of corporate secrets. She watched it once, twice, 3 times, started typing. 90 minutes later, the entire world would know what happened at the Harrington Gala, and the Harrington Empire would begin its collapse. Malcolm's sedan cut through the Connecticut night, rain starting to fall, matching his mood. Jerome watched him through the rearview mirror. Backup video sent to Victoria. She's preserving everything. Good. 3 years, sir. 8 meeting requests. All block. Ed, someone wanted you invisible. Victor Morrison. But he's just the tool. The question is, whose tool? Back at the Harrington estate, Catherine Cole convened an emergency meeting. Her private office, door locked. Bradley, Garrett, Preston, Mitchell, all silent, all terrified. 3 years. Catherine's voice was barely controlled. $800 million partner. And not one of you knew what the owner looked like. I don't handle operations, Bradley tried. You're the executive vice president. I only look at numbers on spreadsheets, Garrett offered. You're the chief financial officer. Those numbers come from Titan. Catherine pressed her palms against her desk, breathed, focused. Who manages the Titan relationship on our end? Preston answered carefully. Rachel Morrison contacts us from their side. On our side, Victor Morrison handles the legal framework and communications. Victor, Catherine's eyes narrowed. Get him in here, now. 5 minutes later, Victor Morrison entered. Calm, professional, not a hair out of place. Why didn't anyone know Malcolm Griffin? Catherine demanded. The owner has always preferred a hands-off approach. Rachel Morrison is the designated representative. He requested meetings 8 times. You blocked every single one. Standard protocol. Owner involvement isn't necessary for routine operational matters. $800 million is routine. Victor didn't flinch, didn't blink. Who recommended you for this position, Victor? A pause, barely perceptible. Mr. Charles Harrington, 18 months ago. Catherine's blood ran cold. Meanwhile, the internet was catching fire. Morgan Webb posted first, Twitter thread, midnight. Just in from inside the Harrington charity gala. 4 executives pour wine on a black man they assumed was catering staff. Plot twist, he owns their $800 million partner company. They worked together for 3 years, never knew his face. How is that possible? Thread attached. The video. Full, unedited. Every slur, every laugh, every drop of wine. 30 minutes, 1.5 million views. 1 hour, 6 million views. 2 hours, 14 million views. Comments exploded. 3 years and they didn't know his face. $800 million partner, and they call him a vendor. Someone kept him invisible on purpose. This isn't incompetence. This is design. Hashtag Harrington Gate trending #1 worldwide. Usinist journalists confirmed the identity within the hour. Breaking, the man in the viral Harrington video is Malcolm Griffin, founder of Meridian Equity Partners. Net worth $1.8 billion. He owns 67% of Titan Logistics, an $800 million company that has been Harrington Cole's largest strategic partner for 3 years. HC executives had never met him. The question everyone is asking, why? Stock futures moved immediately. Harrington Cole dropped 8% overnight. Internet investigators started digging. 3 years, biggest partner. No one knew his face. This isn't an accident. Someone deliberately kept him invisible. Who is Victor Morrison? He blocked all the meetings. Charles Harrington brought Victor in 18 bar months ago. What is the connection? The conspiracy wasn't a theory anymore. In his Connecticut mansion, Charles Harrington sat in his study, watching the coverage, sipping 40-year-old bourbon. His phone rang. Victor, it's everywhere. What do we do? Charles smiled. Nothing. Let it burn. When Griffin terminates the partnership, and he will, we blame cultural differences. Replace Titan with Morrison Logistics, your cousin's company. Problem solved. The video will blow over. Everything does. Charles hung up. He'd waited 15 years for this. Malcolm Griffin was finally going to pay. 11 p.m. Harrington Cole headquarters, emergency war room. Sandra Mitchell, head of public relations, looked like she'd aged 10 years in 3 hours. Phones ringing nonstop. Email servers crashing. Stock price in freefall. We need a statement. 30 minutes ago. Catherine paced the room. Saying what, exactly? Apologize, full accountability, get ahead of the narrative. The legal counsel shook his head. Be careful. Don't admit anything that creates liability for lawsuits. We have 25 million views and climbing. We don't have the luxury of careful. Catherine stopped pacing. There's an angle people keep pushing online. Why didn't we know our biggest partner's face after 3 years? How do we explain that? Sandra winced. That's significantly harder to address. From the corner, Victor spoke, smooth as always. Corporate structure, silent ownership, common practice in private equity. The owner preferred to remain behind the scenes. We respected that preference. Catherine stared at him for a long moment. You seem to have an answer for everything, Victor. 1 a.m., official statement released. Harrington Coal Industries deeply regrets the incident at our charity gala. Due to corporate structure and remote work practices that began during the pandemic, in-person contact with some partners has been limited. Mr. Bradley Harrington has expressed sincere remorse for any misunderstanding that occurred. We are committed to reviewing our partnership protocols. The internet responded instantly, brutally. Corporate structure, that's your excuse? They had 3 years to meet their 800 millionth partner. COVID ended 2 years ago. Try again. Someone kept him invisible on purpose, and they're blaming remote work. This statement is insulting. Ratio, 96% negative, 4% bots. 7 a.m. Bradley made it worse. Against all advice, he posted an Instagram video, unscripted, unwise. I want to address what happened last night. I had no idea who that gentleman was. I have never been in a meeting with him, never seen his photograph, never heard his name. That is not my fault. If there's a failure here, it's in corporate communications, not in my treatment of someone I genuinely believed was event staff. The real question should be, why wasn't I informed? I'm the victim of bad internal processes. The explosion was nuclear. He's blaming the company for his own racism. Even if he didn't know, why would you pour wine on any genuinely believed was event staff? And that makes it okay to humiliate them? Notice he didn't apologize. He explained. There's a difference. This man called someone boy and shoved money in his mouth. That's not a misunderstanding. #FireBrad joined #HarringtonGate in trending both top 10 worldwide. Rough all of this. Malcolm Griffin said nothing. Every major outlet called. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, New York Times, Washington Post. Politicians offered support. Civil rights organizations offered platforms. PR firms offered crisis management. He declined everything. At home, Vanessa found him in his study, staring at the coverage. The whole world wants to hear from you. My silence is louder than any statement. What are you doing? Investigating. 3 years of invisibility wasn't an accident, Vanessa. Someone designed it. Someone wanted this to happen. I need to know why before I say anything publicly. Tutoria Collins released a statement on Titan's behalf. Titan Logistics confirms the incident involving our majority owner, Mr. Malcolm Griffin. We are conducting a thorough internal review of our partnership with Harrington Coal Industries. All future business decisions are pending the completion of this review. Wall Street translated immediately. Partnership could end. Stock dropped another 7%. Total damage 15% and climbing. Analysts panicked on morning shows. If Titan terminates this partnership, Harrington Coal's supply chain collapses within weeks. There's no replacement at this scale. This could be an extinction-level event for the company. Then Denise Harrington entered the conversation. Bradley's sister, Charles's daughter, board member, family insider. Twitter thread from Denise at Truth. Posted at noon. I'm Denise Harrington, Bradley's sister, Charles's daughter. I've been silent for 30 years. No more. What happened to Malcolm Griffin wasn't a random incident. It was designed, orchestrated, planned by my own father. 3 years ago, my father Charles opposed bringing Titan in as a partner. He lost that board vote. He's been plotting to end the partnership ever since. He placed Victor Morrison in the legal department specifically to keep Malcolm Griffin invisible. The Gala incident was the culmination of a 3-year plan. Create a scandal, blame cultural differences, end the partnership, replace Titan with a company controlled by Victor's family. I have the emails. I have the proof. I'm preparing to release everything. 9 million views in 4 hours. Charles Harrington watched from his study, his own daughter betraying him. He picked up the phone. I need Meridian Equity investigated. Find anything. Create doubt. Destroy his credibility before he destroys ours. 50 years of favors. Time to use them all. Day 3 after the gala, Malcolm sat in Meridian Equity's secure conference room. Victoria Collins had spent 72 hours without sleep. Documents covered every surface. I traced every communication between Titan and Harrington Coal over the past 3 years. What did you find? 8 requests from you for direct meetings with HC leadership, 8 denials. Every single one processed through Victor Morrison. The reasons? Owner involvement unnecessary for operational matters. Titan adequately represented by COO Rachel Morrison. HC leadership prefers established communication channels. Different words, same result. You were kept away. What about from their side? Did anyone at HC try to reach me? Victoria pulled up another file. This is where it gets interesting. I talked to Rachel. She said Catherine Cole mentioned wanting to meet the owner multiple times. Direct quote. Catherine asked at least 4 times when she could meet Mr. Griffin personally. Malcolm leaned forward. Catherine wanted to meet me? Yes, but Rachel told her you preferred a hands-off approach, that you didn't like personal meetings, that everything should go through operational channels. I never said that. I know. Because Victor Morrison told Rachel that HC preferred working with her directly, that owner involvement would complicate the relationship. He manipulated both sides. Perfect isolation. Exactly. You thought HC didn't want to meet you. HC thought you didn't want to meet them. Victor controlled all information flow. Neither side knew they were being played. Malcolm stood, walked to the window. The city spread below like a chessboard. But why? What's the endgame? Victoria opened another file. Older documents yellowed at the edges. I dug deeper. Found something from 2009. The Blackwood acquisition. My first major deal at Meridian. We won the competitive bid for a Harrington Coal subsidiary. Charles Harrington wanted to sell it to a friend at below market price. The board overruled him because your offer was 20% higher. You embarrassed him in front of his own board. Malcolm nodded slowly. I remember. Charles called me afterward. Very calm, very cold. Said I would live to regret that decision. He put it in writing. Victoria slid a document across the table. Internal memo, Charles Harrington, dated 2009. The Blackwood outcome is unacceptable. Griffin's firm should never have been considered for this acquisition. His type does not belong in our circles. I will ensure this situation does not repeat itself. Malcolm stared at the words. His type. 15 years, Malcolm. He waited 15 years. That evening, a courier delivered a package to Malcolm's home. Plain brown envelope. No return address. Inside, a USB drive. Handwritten note, Mr. Griffin. My father has destroyed many people over the decades. Here is proof of what he did to you. Use it wisely. D.H. Denise Harrington. Malcolm plugged the drive into a secure laptop. Victoria's jaw dropped as files opened. Email 1. Charles to Victor, 18 months ago. Your primary task upon joining HC, ensure Malcolm Griffin remains a name buried in files, never a face in meetings. HC leadership must not develop any personal relationship with him. When the time comes to the Titan partnership, I want no one fighting to keep it. The less they know him, the easier he is to discard. Email 2. Charles to Victor, 1 week before the gala. Griffin has been added to the gala guest list through Titan's general invitation. Good. Do not brief any executives about his identity. Do not circulate his photograph. Let's observe how they treat a black man they don't recognize at a Harrington family event. Natural behavior will provide all the justification we need. Email 3. Charles to Victor, day after the gala. The incident exceeded expectations. When Griffin terminates the partnership, and he will, we cite irreconcilable cultural differences publicly. Privately, we transition supply chain to Morrison Logistics within 6 months. Your cousin's company is prepared. Our people get the contract. Griffin gets humiliated. Justice served. Malcolm's hands trembled slightly. He didn't just enable this. He orchestrated it. The whole thing from the beginning. More files, HR records, 2015 through 2023, 31 formal complaints of discrimination at HC events and facilities, 23 specifically involved race, all marked resolved internally, 0 disciplinary actions taken, 0 policy changes implemented, settlement records $4.2 million paid over 8 years to silence 11 employees, all bound by NDAs, all processed through Victor Morrison's legal department. 11 people, Malcolm said quietly, paid to disappear. How many others weren't paid? Just fired? Just destroyed? Victoria shook her head. This is conspiracy, wire fraud, Possibly RICO violations. He built an entire system. Malcolm picked up his phone, dialed. Charles answered on the second ring, calm, amused. Mr. Griffin, finally calling to discuss terms of surrender? I have your emails, all of them. The communications with Victor, the 15-year plan, everything. Silence. 3 seconds. 4. Emails can be fabricated. These came from your own daughter. Still want to claim they're fake? Longer silence. What do you want? 48 hours. Resign from every position at HC. Surrender your voting shares. Issue a public apology, or everything goes to federal prosecutors and every media outlet in the country. You're blackmailing me. I'm giving you a choice. That's more than you ever gave anyone you destroyed. You don't know who you're fighting, boy. I know exactly who you are. A man who spent 15 years planning revenge because I won a business deal fairly, an architect of a system that silenced 11 victims. Your era ends now. We'll see about that. Click. Charles started making calls. Old friends, powerful friends, favors accumulated over 50 years. I need pressure on Meridian equity. Regulatory inquiries, credit freezes, stories questioning Griffin's background. Everything. Now, war had officially begun. The counterattack came faster than Malcolm expected. Wall Street Journal front page, day 4. Questions surface about Meridian Equity founder's early career. Sources familiar with the matter suggest that Malcolm Griffin's rapid rise in private equity may have involved questionable partnerships and undisclosed conflicts of interest during his early years. Federal regulators are reportedly reviewing several transactions from the 2008 to 2012 period. No evidence, no named sources, just carefully worded innuendo designed to plant seeds of doubt. Malcolm read it over breakfast. Charles's fingerprints, the old playbook. Victoria called minutes later. He's trying to flip the narrative, make you the villain. Social media filled with coordinated attacks, new accounts, same talking points. What is Griffin really hiding? This whole incident was staged for a lawsuit. Rich man playing victim for attention. Notice how quickly he hired PR firms. This was planned. Professional disinformation. Expensive. Effective with certain audiences. Then came the business pressure. Malcolm's primary banker called. Apologetic but firm. Malcolm, this is a difficult conversation. We've received regulatory inquiries about Meridian's lending activities. Until those are resolved, we need to pause your credit facilities. Who initiated the inquiries? I can't disclose that. How much is frozen? $200 million in credit lines. Effective immediately. Click. Charles's connections running deep. 50 years of favors being called in simultaneously. But the worst came that evening. Malcolm arrived home to find Vanessa standing in the foyer, face drained of color, hands shaking. Someone delivered this, left it on the doorstep. A plain cardboard box on the table, inside a photograph. Their daughter, Naomi, 17 years old, walking home from school that afternoon, clearly taken with a telephoto lens, a red circle drawn around her face. No note, none needed. Malcolm's blood turned to ice. When did it arrive? An hour ago. Security cameras show a delivery van, fake plates. Did you call the police? They said there's not enough for an investigation. No explicit threat, no direct contact. Just a photograph. Malcolm stared at his daughter's circled face. Everything he was fighting for. Everything he could lose. Naomi came home an hour later. She didn't know about the photograph, but she knew about the scandal. The whole school did. Dad, people are saying things, some support you, but others, they're saying you made it all up, that you staged the whole thing for money, that you're a fraud. Do you believe them? Of course not. Tears forming. But it's so hard. Can't we just make it stop? Let it go. Go back to normal. If I let it go now, the next person won't have anyone to fight for them. But what about us? What about our family? She ran upstairs, door slamming. Malcolm stood frozen, the weight of it all pressing down. That night he sat alone in his study. Photograph of Naomi with the red circle, head resting in his hands. The silence of the house felt heavy, like the air before a storm. His phone vibrated on the mahogany desk. An unknown number. He answered, his voice a low growl. Is she worth it, Malcolm? Charles. The voice was smooth, devoid of the anger from their previous call. It was the sound of a man who believed he had already won. "You crossed a line, Charles. You don't bring children into this. I didn't bring her into anything. You did. The moment you decided to play hero, a $200 million credit freeze is just the appetizer. By Monday, the SEC will be at your door. By Tuesday, your investors will flee. And the girl, well, the world is a dangerous place for the daughter of a disgraced fraud. Drop the demands. Terminate the Titan contract quietly. Walk away with what dignity you have left." Malcolm looked at the red circle on Naomi's face. His heart hammered against his ribs, a mix of primal fear and cold, calculated rage. "You think I'm afraid of the dark, Charles? I was born in it. You've lived your whole life in a castle built on silence and NDAs. You think your favors will save you? Those people don't love you. They fear you. And fear is a very brittle currency. We'll see how brave you are when the handcuffs click, boy." The line went dead. Malcolm didn't sleep. He called Victoria, Jerome. Then he made a third call to someone he hadn't spoken to in years, a contact from his early days in the city, someone who dealt in the kind of information that never touched a spreadsheet. By 4 a.m., the war room at Meridian was glowing with blue light. "They're hitting our infrastructure," Victoria said, pointing to a screen showing a sharp dip in Meridian's liquidity. "The banking freeze is spreading. 2 more partners just pulled their lines of credit. They're cited reputational risk. Let them," Malcolm said. He was staring at the USB drive Denise had sent. "There's a folder in here marked Legacy. Have you opened it?" Victoria clicked. "It was encrypted. I'm working on it now." Jerome entered, his face grim. "I've doubled the detail on Naomi. Armored transport to school, no exceptions. But sir, the delivery van from the photo. I tracked the route. It didn't come from a courier service. It came from a private security firm owned by a subsidiary of Harrington Coal." "Direct link," Malcolm whispered. "Good." The Legacy folder popped open. It wasn't just emails. It was a ledger. 1998 to 2024, a list of every politician, judge, and regulator Charles Harrington had ever assisted. Dates, amounts, bank accounts. It was the blueprint of a shadow empire. "He didn't just buy favors," Victoria whispered, her eyes wide. "He kept receipts to use as blackmail." Malcolm stood up, the crimson wine stain on his mind finally turning into a roadmap. "Charles thinks this is a business war. He thinks he can bankrupt me. He doesn't realize I'm not playing for the money anymore." Day 5, 9 The Harrington Coal Board of Directors sat in a panicked silence. Catherine Cole looked like a ghost. The stock was down 22%. Protesters were gathered. Outside the gates. "We have to settle," Catherine said, her voice trembling. "Griffin is going to kill us." Charles sat at the head of the table, his hands folded. "He will do nothing. The news cycle is already turning. Look at the Journal. He's a fraud. By noon, he'll be fighting for his own life." The door to the boardroom swung open. Not security, not a lawyer. Malcolm Griffin walked in. He wasn't wearing a wine-stained suit. He was in a sharp, charcoal gray three-piece. Behind him came Jerome and a team of 4 lawyers carrying black briefcases. "You have no standing here," Charles roared, standing up. "Get out!" "Actually, I do," Malcolm said, his voice calm, cutting through the tension like a blade. "As of 8:45 a.m., Meridian Equity has acquired the debt obligations of 3 of your major institutional investors, including the shares surrendered by your daughter, Denise." He tossed a folder onto the table. "I now control 24% of the voting power in this room, and I'm calling for an immediate vote to remove the chairman for cause." "You're bluffing," Charles sneered. "No one will vote with you." Malcolm leaned over the table, his eyes locked onto Charles's. "You're right. They wouldn't vote for me because they like me. They'll vote for me because I have the legacy ledger." The color drained from the faces of 3 men sitting at the table. One board member dropped his pen. "I've seen the list," Malcolm continued, his voice dropping to a whisper that echoed in the silent room. "I know about the offshore accounts in 2014. I know about the donations to the zoning committee. If Charles stays, the ledger goes to the DOJ at 10 a.m. If he resigns, and Victor Morrison is handed over for prosecution, the ledger stays in my safe." The room was suffocating. Charles looked around the table, waiting for his friends to defend him, but no one looked up. They were terrified. The favors he had used to build his wall were now the bricks that would bury him. You wouldn't," Charles stammered. "I already have." Malcolm turned to Catherine. You have 10 minutes to sign the papers. Bradley, Garrett, Preston, and Mitchell are to be terminated for cause immediately. No severance. No NDAs. Let the world see exactly what they are. At 10:15 a.m., a press release hit the wires. Charles Harrington had resigned for health reasons. Victor Morrison was escorted out in handcuffs by federal agents on charges of wire fraud and conspiracy. Malcolm walked out of the building into the bright Manhattan sun. Jerome was waiting by the car. "Is it over, sir?" Malcolm looked at his phone, a text from Vanessa. "Naomi is home. She saw the news. She's proud of you." Malcolm took a deep breath, the weight finally lifting. "No, Jerome, it's not over. We have a company to rebuild. And this time they'll know exactly whose face is behind it." He got into the car, the black sedan merging into the city traffic, leaving the collapsing empire of the Harringtons in the rearview mirror.